Hello, vinyl community. Mike from Mike Guitar Player 07 here, coming at you live with another vinyl record video, a collab video at that, as you can tell, because I have the Blind Island, Isaac, over joining us today, because I have come and sailed away, as Styx likes to put it, and I have joined and sailed all the way to the Blind Island, and have been joined by Isaac. Ahoy.
Ahoy. That was a great introduction.
That was all just on the top of my head. I just got that right as I was doing this.
Almost all of my videos are off the top of my head. It's like very little thought put into it.
I'm glad it's not only me then.
Oh, that's good stuff. I sometimes find myself like watching my videos and being like, holy cow, that was just rough. Fantastic intro. I think I might steal that one for my channel.
Right, perfect. Do it in one day, give me the credit and all that. Cool.
New intro.
But yeah, it's great to have you here. And
it's great to be here.
And our video topic of the day, as you can tell from the title of the video anyway, but we are talking about 5 of our albums that currently are on fairly heavy rotation.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be fantastic. I look forward to what you have to share. I'm excited to share what I have to share. And you're the guests, so you get to go first.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, you know, I love these type of videos and just like, because then you're not constrained to genre or a certain time period. You just can share whatever. So first one I'm going to share is actually a newer release. It's by Tracy Ann and Danny. I don't know if you've ever heard of these guys.
Nope.
Tracy Ann Chapman, I believe her last name is, was the lead singer for Camera Obscura, which was a group pretty popular in the indie scene in the mid-2000s. And Danny is actually the singer for a group called Crybaby. And his song, When the Lights Go Out, was used in a lot of movies in the early 2010s. But this is just really great kind of 50s, 60s girl group infused pop music.
Ooh.
It has like a lot of charm to it. It has a lot of this quality of being brought back in time. And the music has this wistful like longing to it. I've just been finding myself listening to this a lot because it just is, it's like sugar. It just is, it tastes sweet. And sometimes with all the craziness going on in the world, you just want to listen to something that like goes down really smooth. And I also love watching this one because it comes on red vinyl. And it's not the clear, but it's the deluxe version as well. It came with a 12-inch or a 7-inch that wasn't included in the regular release. And I love the gatefold too. Just that nice big landscape.
Yeah.
It's a really cool album. And here's the 12-inch. And yeah, Can't Get Over You and Baby's Got It Bad. I rarely play it just because I'm like, oh, now I have to take off the 12-inch to go to the 7-inch, vice versa. But it's nice to have.
It's probably like what most people did with songs in the key of life back in the day.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, I do have that one, like with the 7-inch.
No, that's one I don't have on vinyl because I refuse to buy it if it doesn't have the booklet of the 7-inch in it. And I have it on CD, which is fine, but I need that on record. That's one of my great albums.
I found it at a place that is now defunct, which makes me very sad. But I bought it for $2 and it had the 7-inch and the booklet. I was like, couldn't believe it.
That's
like, wow.
In good condition too?
Yeah, it's in great condition. So I'll keep my eyes open for you though and make sure that I can find one. I don't know. You go next though.
I was gonna say in the soul and R&B kind of like vibe, that's probably the highest up on my list of records I want to get. So
yeah, I love that soul, man. Gotta get that soul. Oh yeah, it's got a good beat to it.
Yeah, it's such a great. It's what's great about these collabs, I'm telling you.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm gonna show my favorite album by this band, and also my currently most played, because it wasn't until like within the past couple months I discovered that this was like my favorite release by this album artist and band. And this artist and band, of what I've heard, has never put out a bad release.
Okay.
And that would be Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
Yeah, that's my man.
Now, I haven't heard the Bob Seger system, and I forgot the other band that he had at the moment that was in between that and him being just solo before doing the Silver Bullet Band. But I've only heard stuff with the Silver Bullet Band from Live Bullet Forward, and but I'm telling you, flawless all around, every single one. And this is 11th studio album from 1980, and this is the follow-up to the album Stranger in Town, which featured things like Hollywood Nights and Old Time Rock and Roll. All great stuff. But what's really interesting about this album, as you can tell from the hype sticker, it has the hit Fire Lake, which was the biggest hit off this album, reaching number 3 on the charts. But what's funny about this album is we all love Pink Floyd's The Wall, but this knocked it out of the number 1 album spot on the charts in 1980. But I'm telling you, some critics kind of didn't love this album and thought it was some kind of a weak album. I'm thinking it's just as strong as everything else. You have songs like Against the Wind, the balladiness of that. It's like just really beautiful. I mean, the album opens up with such a feeling of like 50s rock and roll kind of vibes with the song Horizontal Bop, which I love. Of course, Fire Lake is actually my favorite Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band tune, so I'm biased in regards to that tune, but that's killer. No matter how simplistic it is, it's just so fun. And it kind of gives me chills every time I hear it. I feel like that's one of the handful of perfect like campfire songs, Fire Lake. Maybe just have like a giant like canyon in the background or something like that. I don't know. Maybe something like you get in Arizona. But You'll Accompany Me was a single off this album. It didn't. I'm not remembering what it charted at. It charted at like 8 or 9, I think. Her Strut. Oh, we can't forget about Her Strut. That was a big hit. That talk about Her Strut.
His voice is incredible. He has a highly underrated voice.
It's he has one of the best voices out there. And it's interesting because Horizontal Bop, which I mentioned earlier, was the A side to the single, but Her Strut was a B side. So it kind of ended up being a double A side. I'm not remembering what Her Strut charted at, but Horizontal Bop was it was lower. It was the lowest ranking of the singles. I think it was like in the 40s. But yeah, and coming out of albums like Stranger in Town or Night Moves or Live Bullet, where it has photos of Bob Seger, and understandably so, it makes perfect sense. I mean, he's a band, but like this artwork reminds me of like when I was in Chincoteague Island when I was a kid, and like I rode a pony for the first time. Like I remember seeing in gift shops all these like Mystic at Chincoteague like books with like horses on the cover and similar like books like similar to this, and I just loved the artwork. As if the album wasn't great enough without the artwork, then the artwork just adds to it. So, and this was Seger's only number 1 album. So even though it knocked The Wall out, it deserves its recognition. So there's critics who thought that this was kind of a weak album. Well, I think they're eating their own turds now.
Well, what they say about critics is that, the review doesn't age very well, but the music usually does.
True.
And I think Bob Seger, I personally am a bigger fan of his work with his previous outfit, the Bob Seger System, but all of his stuff is worth visiting, and that's a fantastic record. Great choice. Really
yeah, I've never found the Bob Seger System in the wild. Otherwise, I'd own him.
All right. Well,
because I want to check him out too. I want everything by Seger one day. I want his entire discography.
Yep. I mean, it's definitely one of those that I need Noah still by him, and that's apparently like the hardest to find, a true grail. But yeah, I completely agree with you. So great choice.
I've never been disappointed by Bob Seger.
No, I haven't either. Well, let's see. What do I got here next? I'm gonna go with one, since you were talking about blues and not really know much about it. I know that I've shared this one in a couple of my videos, but it is making an appearance again, and it's John Lee Hooker's "It Serves You Right to Suffer."
Oh yeah, I remember you showing that.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal blues album. John Lee Hooker, though, I mean, he is like one of the big names in blues, and he has this voice that sounds like he came out of a cave and literally is older than time.
Huh.
He commands your attention, has tons of charisma, and that's apparent all over this record. And it was his only release for the Impulse label, which was normally known for its jazz releases.
Right.
And I love, like, the Impulse label just has awesome gatefolds as well. Like, I really enjoy reading all of that information that's on here. And something that really separates this from a lot of the other releases he ever came out with is that the musicians he's playing with are actually primarily jazz musicians. So yeah, they're not blues guys, but there's sometimes when it may seem as though they're off time or something is kind of like, oh, that seems a little off, but he's still, like, his voice is commanding the stage the entire time. Because the jazz guys, they're so used to staying in time, staying in rhythm, and following the leader. It's a lot harder when the leader is a vocalist. But if you're looking for really good like blues music, this is a great place to start. Vinyl copies of this are very hard to come by, but stream it. And then I know that there are CDs now, and they just came out with a reissue that's only like $17.
Okay.
Really great stuff. Highly recommended. So I've been listening to this a lot because it rocks and it also goes deep down. He has a great version of Money on here that I really like. And, he's just bringing that heat the entire time. I love it. So great stuff.
As you said, Impulse has great gatefolds. I would argue that they have some of the best gatefolds ever to come into existence.
I would say it's between, like, as far as even just aesthetic and artwork, it's between Blue Note and Impulse, because they have like the best artwork and some of the most iconic sleeves of all time.
Yeah.
And I mean, that album is 50 plus years old and it still looks brand new. It's amazing.
But they age very well too. They don't get dirty that easily either.
No, unless a person was just like, total trash and left it in the corner in the basement and have water drip on it, it's gonna stay.
And do that, put it through the wood chipper,
Well, put the person to the wood chipper.
Was John Lee Hooker on like a Chess label by chance for the other releases?
I think that he was. He did come out with a couple of releases on Chess. A lot of those blues guys usually did come out with at least a couple. Chess and Checkers. And then he did come out with a record called Endless Boogie, which is really, really good. I can't remember which label that was off of, but he was more of the electric blues type of guy, and highly recommended.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. And also another good starting point is just the Blues Brothers soundtrack. Like, if you want to get into blues, have you ever listened to it?
I have not.
There are tons of great blues artists that are featured on that, and I would highly recommend getting started there.
Okay. Perfect.
It's where I first heard John Lee Hooker.
Okay, so maybe I'll start there and then check out the John Lee Hooker album.
Yeah, it's a good way.
All right. So my next choice, this is the only reissue in the bunch. And this is a 2010 true to the original master version of this album. And it would be Access, Bold as Love by Jimi Hendrix, his second studio album from 1967. And, this thing The packaging is very solid, very well put together. The music sounds beautiful. The only difference really is that the label are these new reissued labels. It's colored with his face on it, whereas I believe it was the Reprise generic label of the time. But really, that's the main difference. I mean, it's just a killer album. And I got this last year, and we just lost our camera for a moment.
Oh, there we go.
There we are. So I got this last year, almost a year ago, and I've heard Jimi Hendrix before. I knew the hits. I heard all 3 of his albums that he released in his lifetime, and then a few of the others that were not released after his lifetime. But really, it wasn't until the past month that I really started delving deeper into this. And, the only hits off it were Little Wing and If 6 Was 9. But, man, such great stuff. And compared to the I keep forgetting I have to hold it like this. And compared to his debut album, which was Are You Experienced with the Jimi Hendrix Experience, this is very rhythm and blues based, speaking about blues. And it's considered one of the best albums of all time from Rolling Stone, like that 500 greatest whatever. But this is great. And I think that this is a factoid that most people in the VC know, but I'm going to share it for the rare case that someone doesn't know it. But the album cover. So this album cover is not the way it was supposed to be. The album cover, Jimi Hendrix wanted to include American Indian imagery based on his personal culture and ethnicity background, all that. But the cover artist, who I believe was a gentleman by the name of Carl Ferris, if I'm not mistaken, misunderstood the Indian request and put various forms of Vishnu from the Hindu culture on the cover instead. And, Hendrix was very vocal about not liking this cover, but still made it happen anyway. And for whatever reason, I'm not really sure how it got through with him not liking it or if he just said, screw it, whatever. But what's interesting is that 6 from 9 was a popular tune from this album, but he rarely ever played it live. Little Wing was the main tune that was played live from this album. And, this is one of those flawless 60s albums, probably one of my favorite 60s albums of all time, next to things like Surrealistic Pillow. And there's another album in here that I will be mentioning that is one of my favorite albums from the 60s and all that. Of course, various Beatles and Rolling Stones as well. My only complaint about this album is I don't love the radio intro at the beginning. The first time I heard it, I was like, what is this? And then the next couple listens, I was like, okay, I can get down with it. Now at this point, I feel like it kind of drags on, and it is 2 minutes in length. It's definitely cool because it shows some of the stereo effects that were used and experimenting with at the time, because this is around the time where mono is starting to be phased out and stereo was going to be the main way to record. So I love all the stereo effects that this album as a whole has, let alone, and that intro has. And, it's fine. But really, if I was to say that's my only complaint, it's still a flawless album. And this particular version comes with the booklet. I'm not sure if a history booklet or any kind of booklet or not came with the original release. But I'm telling you, I had No?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And, my friend was connected to one of those record services that ships you a record based on your Discogs or Spotify every month. And he got the 2010 reissue of Are You Experienced? And at that time, I was like, oh, I want to get an original. I'm kicking myself in the butt for not buying that copy from him because this sounds so good. If I find an original for a good price, I'll get it. I prefer my originals, but I do appreciate a good reissue. This is one of the best reissues I've ever heard in my life. But I still prefer the originals. But it'll be nice to have an A-B comparison. This is one of those few albums that if I had an original and this version, I am keeping both. I don't generally keep multiple copies of albums, but there's a select few that I will, and this is one of them. And this, it's just a great listen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. And that's my personal favorite Jimi Hendrix album. So,
Same.
Yeah, and I did not know that. I didn't actually know that story. So thank you for sharing a factoid that I did not know.
Oh, the album cover one?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, must have just flown right over my head.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for.
Exactly. All right. So next, now I have a Moondog Self-Titled, 1969.
Okay.
Have you ever listened to this one before?
No, but I saw it in the past, and I saw you show it in a recent video. I think Noble
Yeah.
Records showed it in a video a while ago, and then I see you show it, and now it's one of those that I'm intrigued by.
Yeah. Well, if you're a fan of like classical type music, a lot of people they kind of lump this into jazz because he had worked with a lot of jazz musicians, but I think of it more as third stream classical. And he was this guy who just had this incredible mind, was creating music out on the streets, was homeless for years, and known for dressing like a Viking around New York City and would just wander around and make music. He put out a few albums for the Prestige label and a couple of others. But this was his first record for Columbia. He came out with two. And this is just gorgeous, gorgeous music. He is, I mean, I don't even know fully how to explain it. I'm also a really big fan of the gatefold on this. I am not a fan of unipacks. I hate those. I hate that style. I have never seen a copy of this in very good condition because it always has just been torn off on the side. But this one is actually in really nice condition, and I was very happy to find it. But yeah, he was completely blind from an accident, I believe, when he was farming when he was a kid. And I don't know what it is about blind guys being able to play music so well. But
I'm telling you, put those sighted people to shame.
Yeah, but I would say this is one that I keep on coming back to just because it has this beauty to it and simplicity as well. He's playing with a 40-piece orchestra here, and yet it still sounds stripped back. Whoa. So it's gorgeous, lovely, very cinematic. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of Philip Glass, and like that's one of my favorite soundtracks, Mishima. If you've ever heard of that, that is good stuff too. But yeah, this is a great album and one that I've been listening to ever since I purchased it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I found it. Yeah, well, exactly what I did.
In about a record or two, you'll see a record that I kind of had that same kind of experience with, but it was a VCLT. But
I think I know what it is.
You might. We'll find out. All right. So, even though I have other albums by this artist, it seems like this is the only album I've ever shown on my channel so far. But this is the one that I've played most, and this is the one that fits the bill most. And this one just started reappearing in my listening very recently. And this is Julie London's debut album. Is her name? Holy crap! So I discovered her through Vinyl Rewind, his channel, because he talked about Julie London. I just saw the photo. I don't remember if it was this album or if it was like Julie's Her Name Part 2 or a different one. But either way, I know this is one of them that he showed, but I don't remember which one was first and caught my eye. But I just saw that and I was like intrigued because like it kind of had like a Marilyn Monroe-esque feeling to it, even though she doesn't look anywhere near it. But it kind of gave me that kind of vibe with and she did have an acting career, which I don't know much about, but she had one, so I guess it fits the bill kind of. And it kind of like gave me like Judy Garland and Marilyn Monroe vibes, and I was like, I'm intrigued. Spotified it, jaw dropped, and I had to have it. I could never find her works until I found a little mini mom and pop record shop called Penny Lane in Chester, New Jersey. And this must have been one of the handful of Julie London albums that he had out must have been just put out because they didn't have price tags on them yet. But I went through them and I was like, I've been looking for Julie London for the past couple months. So I went to the owner and gave him the handful of Julie London. So I mainly grabbed Julie London that day. And I asked him, what are these going for? And he said, I'm not sure. I got to look at the condition and I will let you know. He probably had to do some research. He probably hadn't looked into it yet. I know that some of her stuff, very up there in price. Others things, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
I got all my Julie London albums for $4 a pop, which is kind of.
Is it the original Liberty label on that one?
Not this one. A couple of them are early reissues. A couple of them are original. I believe my copy of Lonely Girl. I believe Lonely Girl is an original, but this one's a reissue. This one it's on that Liberty.
Yeah. That's the copy that I have too.
And this is the Liberty label of the 60s. So you find the Jan and Dean works and all that on this label. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is her 1955 debut. This album made it to #2 on the album charts. And this is American jazz and traditional pop. And if you want an intimate album, this is just about as intimate as one could get. Guitar, vocals. That's it. I kind of compare it to the female Johnny Mathis. And this is comparable to Johnny Mathis's album, By the Fireside with Two Guitars or something like that, whatever that album's called. But man, I bought this and I listened to it the first time at night, which was extremely appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. And the leading tune, the first song you hear is Crimea River, which was a single off this album, the most successful tune of her career. And it sold like 3 million copies, I believe, the single, and the song hit #9 on the charts. It's just so great. There's you can't go wrong with this.
No.
And her musical career after this album was kind of unsuccessful for the most part. People bought the stuff, but mainly because of the album covers, because just as many of the pin-ups at the time, and the Cheesecake albums, which a channel by AGK's Vinyl Life just did a whole episode about pinup girls and Cheesecake album covers. If you haven't seen that, check that out. It's great. He showed Julie London's album Calendar Girl, which is one of her albums I'm missing that I need. That is my Julie London grail, is that album.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was not very successful after that, but she still kept going. And as I said, I wasn't looking at it down here, but her face just intrigued me with Julie, the whole vibe, as I said earlier, Marilyn Monroe and Judy Garland, but obviously everything else is quite nice too.
That's the amazing thing, though. Is the album cover exudes sensuality without having to show a lot. It exudes this beauty, and I don't know. I really miss that from those old album covers.
And I love the simplicity of the back too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not gaudy. It's just straightforward. Yeah. Yeah,
and Julie London is one of those people you don't hear about a lot for whatever reason, but she is just as good as Judy Garland, Johnny Mathis, Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra.
She has this throatiness to her vocals. It kind of has Sarah Vaughan. That reminds me a little bit of really good. Oh, great choice, man.
I'm sure her lifetime of smoking added to that.
Yeah, well, that Nat King Cole said that's what his golden voice came from, was smoking a pack of cigarettes every day.
Yeah. It ultimately was his Nat King Cole's demise at an early age. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you sold your soul to the devil there, bro. All right. So I'm gonna go with this next one, and this is I feel kind of bad because what I've been listening to is just really weird, obscure stuff.
It's okay. You're introducing me to new stuff. I love it.
But this gal, her name is Lau Now. She's a Finnish singer, and all of the lyrics on here are spoken in her native tongue. And the album is called Nuku, which is translated to sleep in English, and came out in 2008. And have you ever heard of a group, Mutual Benefit?
Heard of, haven't listened to.
Okay. Well, he was really influenced by her because she uses a lot of different strings, wind chimes, and dissonant chords throughout her music. And it has this very ethereal, otherworldly sound to it. Apparently, this album was recorded between her child sleeping, like having naps. So hence the title being Sleep. And it's supposed to be kind of this, lullaby record, but they're like lullabies from hell because they're just like really intense, grinding, but at the same time, very lush and orchestral. It is full of dissonance, and I find it to be an incredibly relaxing yet jarring type of record. And her voice, it kind of has this Bjork quality to it.
Say, like, it sounds like the way you're describing it is like a combination of Yoko Ono and Bjork.
Yes, I would go with that. That would be the best way to explain it. It is really, really beautiful music. And what's nice, though, is that she does include English translations to the lyrics on the back of the album. So, like, you aren't completely left in the dark as to what this is all about. But even so, sorry, my darn phone losing power. There we go. Yeah, but it's definitely one of those records that's not for everybody, but I love it. Really good, relaxing music. So, Lao Now Nuku, definitely.
Yeah, I am intrigued just based on the fact that you compared it to Bjork, because that's what kept going through my head. I was like, and it's not necessarily her solo career Bjork stuff, even though some of that would fit the bill. I was thinking more of the Glinglow era of Bjork.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So here's the one that you think you know what it is.
Okay, all right. I'm going to guess. Is it Fear Itself?
Yeah.
Yeah!
I mean, you heard the VCLT. You saw the video. You've heard the story of how I got this and what happened. But for those who haven't, Noble Records recommended this on his psych rock videos over a year ago. I added it to my Spotify. I never got a chance to listen to it until about a month ago, or a couple weeks ago, maybe about a month. I don't know. But either way, listened to it very recently. I was blown away. As I said in my VCLT when I received this from Bo over at Earhead 6, Grace Slick and Janis Joplin, both vocals coming together as one. You get Ellen McWollane. I don't know if that's how you say her last name, but, So, I mean, psych rock blues band. And this was the only album they released because after this was recorded, one of the members of the band was killed by a drunk driver, which kind of caused the band to disband. Ellen ended up moving to Canada to pursue a solo career. Now that I know that she has a solo career, after doing some more research on this album, after I received it as VCLT, I have determined I need her solo career stuff now. But one amendment I need to make compared to the VCLT video, because I said that based on the sound of this, I thought it was like from the San Francisco Bay Area of California. I was wrong. This band was based out of Greenwich Village in New York City. So that is one mistake in that other video I had to fix. And this was, as I said, the only release. This was from 1968. Bo was kind enough to send me an original pressing on the DOT label.
Nice.
And I'm telling you, I'm just been recently starting to get into Jefferson Airplane more. So getting this into my life and experiencing this in my life was really fitting for the time. It was just perfect timing. And I just love it. I want to try listening to this album at night because it sounds great during the day. I can only imagine what it's like at night. With all the lights off, maybe light an incense or something like that.
Yeah, bro. No, that's one that I definitely need in my collection and been searching for. It's so beautiful. That is really cool to have.
I'm telling you, this is the quickest I've ever gotten a Grail record. And as I said in the VCLT video, it was a Grail for maybe a week or two, and then I was sent it. And I for those who haven't seen it, you guys could see my reaction to getting this. But man, if you like 60s music, let's just put it this way. Even if you're not familiar with Jefferson Airplane and Grace Slick's work, which you might know White Rabbit, but that's about it. Most people probably know more of Janis Joplin. If you like Janis Joplin, you'll like this too.
Right.
Specifically the stuff with Big Brother and the Holding Company. The stuff off Pearl, it would fit the bill too, but it's more specifically with Big Brother.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. All right. Well, my last one here is pretty cheap, and you can get it off Discogs for like $4. But I found it, and it's called Street Smells Creamy. And it is, I found this a couple of years ago at the record store I used to work at, and it's a neo-psych record. Really, really good if you like psychedelic music. This is just right up that alley, kind of in the vein of the Black Angels. Got that red vinyl. And
well, I've recently started getting into the psych rock deeper in with stuff like Fear Itself, so I'm totally
like well, if you like psychedelic rock, or even a group that's been talked about a little bit more in VC is Psychedelic Porn Crumpets. But if you like them, you're gonna like these guys a lot. They're a New York, Brooklyn-based band. I think they only came out with 2 LPs from my understanding. And I don't know if they're still coming out with music. They never took off, but I mean, I get it, because all their songs are like 4 or 5 minutes long and not really radio friendly. But this is a great pickup for super, super cheap. And if you just go on to Discogs, you can pick up a copy right now for $4. So, and just tons of enjoyment to be found. Really good for those hot psychedelic summer days. So
what year did that come out, and what label is it on?
2012, and I think it was on their, I want to say that it was on their own label. Yeah, it doesn't say. Mastered by Bruce Templeton at Magneto Mastering, and first pressing released by Cloaky Records. So probably their own record label.
Yeah, I was going to say, I never heard of that one.
Yeah, me either.
But, with today's day, it's so easy to make your own record label and all that if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so, this kind of is going to throw everybody off guard compared to everything else I've been listening to recently, but it fits the bill. This is probably my top 3, top 5, excuse me, I don't know where I got 9 from, top 3 or 5 albums from the 1990s. This is the 3rd studio album from this group in 1999, and compared to the band's previous other releases that were more guitar-based, this one is more electronic-based. This would be OK Computer by Radiohead.
Nice choice. Yeah.
Hit number 1 on the album charts. Won a Grammy for the album of the year. And as I said, it's one of my favorite albums from the 1990s. People shit on Radiohead for whatever reason, but I love it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I'm moving. Sorry, I'm moving. My phone is dying. So
okay.
I have a bad battery.
You're good.
But I'm still listening.
Okay.
All right.
And they did not have a whole lot. They didn't have a wide audience. This album kind of put them on a more international exposure level, which is kind of cool. And this is kind of a concept album, because this album has topics of consumerism, social distance, and alienation. Not distance, even though I guess that fits a bill for today's pandemic. Kind of has topics of emotional isolation and political disgruntlement. And this came out in 1999. So how is that for a 21st century life in sight before it even happened?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of really accurate. Some of the singles off this album are Paranoid Android, Karma Police, Lucky, There was one other one. I believe it was No Surprises.
Hmm.
But Paranoid Android and Karma Police are probably the most well-known off this. Karma Police, I was surprised to hear that it only went to number 8 on the charts. Paranoid Android was number 3, which I would
Yeah,
be the other way around. But
yeah. I mean, other than Creep, the only other song that I would think has the best commercial appeal would be Karma Police, for
exactly.
sure.
And Creep, I think, made it to number 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. I think you're right.
But
Like, I'm not a huge Radiohead fan, but that is a phenomenal record. And anyone who says Radiohead sucks obviously hasn't listened to music.
I was gonna say, like, they've kind of become like the '90s version of Nickelback, like just to shit on them for no reason.
Yeah, I guess I guess I don't quite understand it. They took music, I compare them more to like the 90s Beatles because because they took music, and people like to dump on the Beatles a little bit now too, because, and I'm not like a huge Beatles guy. I think what they did for music is more impressive than their like output, just for me personally.
Okay.
But ultimately, like, you can't deny what they did, and Radiohead was the same way. Like, amazing stuff.
And I've been diving deeper thanks to David Newton. He's actually the one who surprised me with this as a VCLT too. But I also bought some Radiohead albums from him a couple months back when he was trying to raise some funds for a box set he wanted to get. And I knew a little bit of their stuff, but then I got all that. I got this, and I'm just like, man, I'm loving Radiohead more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
I streamed the album, The Bends, because I don't have that on physical media yet. Never heard it. Loved it. The only like really essential Radiohead album that I haven't heard now is In Rainbows. So
Yeah, that's a really great record. That's probably my favorite Radiohead, but OK Computer is a close second. I think the only thing that, I don't quite understand again why people dump on Radiohead so much. It doesn't make any sense to me, but yeah, whatever.
yeah, I don't even know which one I like more, this or Kid A. Those are my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great album to end on.
Yeah.
So,
and really, the only other thing to say about this is in the 2010s sometime, I don't remember what year, Library of Congress National Recording Registry put this album into their vaults for the culturally and historically and aesthetically significant type of album.
nice.
You don't see the kitties if you're when you're on your chair, so now you get to see.
Well, you see, we put up a cage down here to try and keep them out because they like to rub their faces on everything. But if they get determined, they'll cross it.
Well, that, and you might use the record spines as a scratching post.
Exactly. And I mean, I love them, but I love my records more.
Understandably so.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much for sharing that stuff with me. That was really, really great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I really love Bob Seger so much, so I was really happy to see him get shouted out here.
And he's never talked about in the VC, and I don't know why.
He really isn't. It's again just kind of one of those artists that people like to just say, "Oh, doesn't he suck?" Kind of like the Eagles. I don't know why. Again, I like the Eagles.
Oh, I love the Eagles. I don't know. Yeah. It's like, it's dad rock. Well, what if you become a dad one day? Then it's your music. Now what?
Yeah, exactly. And then like, I love contemporary music, and I shared a lot. Like 3 of my showings today were more contemporary.
Right.
But eventually, what's contemporary is going to be past and passe. So it's like everyone's like, I like to stay on the cutting edge. Well, literally in 2 years, it's no longer going to be the cutting edge. So.
Yeah, I mean, like in the turn of the 20th century, Stravinsky was contemporary. Now it's
now it's classical music.
Yeah.
But that's why I always say, and
I don't know if you get this, like sometimes in your comments, just being like, that's not that great, but whatever, like whatever. And I just say, that's great, man. I'm glad you have that opinion. That's awesome. Everyone is allowed to have their opinion.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can't recall offhand getting any of those, but like as you said, like everybody has a right to their opinion. So if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you know. That's what's beautiful about music. It's subjective.
Exactly. There is no objective truth in music. And
Rather than that, music is the universal language of the world.
Indeed. All right. Oh, dude, this was great.
Absolutely.
I was super happy to talk about it with you.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I'm very jealous of that fear itself. Very jealous.
Oh, that album right there is one of the highlights of the year for records for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good stuff. So I love watching. And just before we stop, I just want to let you know I love watching your videos. Yeah, I think that you always share off a good range of stuff, and you just have a glowing personality. Really enjoy watching it.
Thank you. I always love what you share too, and earlier in the day before you signed up for my 300 subs contest entry, before I like actually watched your channel and checked you out and subscribed and ended up becoming a fan and all that, the youngest people in the VC chat were asking me if I knew who Isaac at the IsLind Island was, and I was like, no, can you give me some more detail? Little did I know you comment on my video saying, here's an entry. So it was kind of interesting how all within the same day I discovered you and all that. So I always enjoy what you have to show too. And I always, sometimes you dress up in fun little outfits, like for the Frank Sinatra video. I love it all.
Yeah, I sometimes, like, I used to wear a big hat when I started because I wanted to, like, Mazzy always wears hats. And I always wanted to pull off wearing like a fedora or a big hat, like Vinyl Guru, but it just doesn't work for me. So I stopped that.
Yeah. When you did your Beach Boys ranking, I was just expecting you to be in a bikini or something.
Oh, I thought about it. But like, I was worried that I might blind people because of how white I am.
I can relate. All righty. Well, This has been great fun. Thank you, Isaac, for joining me.
No, thank you. And sorry for my technical difficulties.
That's not a big deal. If that's the worst thing that happens today, we're in good shape.
I agree. I agree, man.
If you don't know who Isaac is, he'll be down below. Keep on spinning that wax, and I will see you in the next Final Record video.